Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to announce this next session, a Fireside Chat Dubai's FinTech Industry Evolution, What's Next? Together with Mohammad Alblooshi, Head of Innovation Hub and FinTech Hive at DIFC, we will explore how the Dubai's FinTech industry has evolved and what to expect. This session will be moderated by Tom Higgins, founder and CEO at Goldeye and CryptoSwitch. Tom, Mohammad, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Mohammad, it's a great pleasure to have you here from DIFC. I wonder if you could start just by talking to me about the DIFC, because I'd like to learn more about it, because I don't know a great deal about it, and also what your particular role is in DIFC.
Sure. Thank you, Tom. I just want to make sure I'm audible. Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank IFX for inviting me. I think I was just mentioning to you that I'm probably doing public speaking after a couple of months, so I'm out of practice. But I think just a little bit about DIFC. DIFC stands for Dubai International Financial Center, which is a government entity responsible for developing Dubai's financial services sector. Established back in 2004, with that mandate, we essentially have the responsibility to diversify Dubai's GDP into a more diverse economy rather than being much reliant on hydrocarbon economy. And we do have a responsibility of job creation as well. So that's a matrix that we monitor very closely. But I think the idea came in the early 2000s when Dubai had somewhat emerged as a business hub. And in this part of the world, which is the Middle East and North African markets, there was no financial hub, international financial center. If you compare this part of the region with the other parts of the world, with the Londons, New Yorks, and Singapores, we didn't have a city that could truly claim to be a global financial hub. And that's where the leadership of Dubai saw an opportunity and wanted to capitalize on that. Hence the establishment of DIFC. DIFC is quite very unique in terms of how it is established. It is a physical and legal carve-out from the UAE mainland. It has its own financial regulator. It has its own legal framework, so it's based on English common law as opposed to the wider region, which is based on civil law and Sharia law. And we also have our own courts. So technically, we're a mini city within a city that is focused on developing the financial services sector. And with that infrastructure, we've been able to attract anyone and everyone. Any top name from the financial services world that comes to your mind has their regional headquarters at the DIFC, and we continue to grow. And I think my particular role at the DIFC is I'm responsible for building the DIFC's innovation ecosystem. That includes its accelerator programs, our venture building initiatives, and also everything that we do around the metaverse or sustainability. But more importantly, I also oversee the DIFC Innovation Hub, which is a physical ecosystem that is home to more than 700 fintech and innovation startups. I've been part of the story from day one. We started the journey back in 2016, end of 2016, beginning 2017, where we had 0 startups. Now, I'm in touch with that ecosystem is about 700 startups.
That's an amazing accomplishment, getting to 700 startups in that time. It sounds like it's a pretty unique hub from a sort of global point of view. Is it unique? Are there other people, are there other places in the world that do this? Have they copied you?
I think so, yeah. I think the idea was that in Dubai, we wanted to create something that is no different than a London, New York, and Singapore. We wanted to have an ecosystem which is robust enough that I could go and speak to some of the largest financial institutions based in New York and London and tell them, come to Dubai, come to the IFC, where we could guarantee you a legal and regulatory framework no different than where they are. And I think, it was quite unique. Again, from a legal framework perspective, we've embedded the English common law into the DIFC, which is at par with all these global hubs. And I think as the region evolved, other jurisdictions have looked at this model, as it has worked very well in Dubai. And now there are other financial centers as well in the region, which I believe do contribute as well to their economies and also enable the whole regional economy, I would say.
An exciting campfire session.
Just wait till they finish.
How to build a fintech business in 2023. Companies, SaaS solutions versus development.
All right, we'll wait for them. They're not going to finish. A large majority of the FinTech companies in the region have opened in the DIFC. What are the services that they're using in there? What's the reason that they came into DIFC as opposed to other areas?
So I think for everyone, be it fintech companies or conventional players, the role, if it's a company that is based elsewhere, they would look into Dubai and the IFC as a regional hub as they want to expand into Middle East and North African markets. This is the most attractive jurisdiction that they want to expand into naturally, I would say. The region is quite young, it's very robust, and I think people do realize that you've got to be on the ground to be able to do business in a specific jurisdiction. The Middle East is a very much relationship-driven region. There has to be a face to the name, and hence people do establish presence in this part of the world. And I think for us, I think it was a no-brainer for anyone that is in the fintech space or financial services space for them to come to DIFC and be part of the DIFC. But more importantly, I think when it comes to fintech, I think we've also been agile. We've been innovative as well. The way we approach the sector, I think one of the things that we initially started doing is we started asking this question: can we actually serve fintechs the way we used to serve banks? Because I think one thing that is very important for us as regulators and government bodies is to understand the clientele. Because this now, fintechs or startups, is a whole new breed of companies that we are to serve or regulate. So I think from a regulatory perspective, there was a lot of work that had to go in. Our regulator came up with the regulations around crowdfunding, around payments and money services, around digital assets, around crypto right now as well. And we actually created a sandbox, so an environment for these startups, these disruptive technologies to be tested at the DIFC. But I think that's just one part of it. There's more to it. We actually, one thing that we realized that, startups might not be as well funded as a well-established institution might be. So how can we make it easier for startups to come and operate out of the DIFC or Dubai? And I think that's where I think leadership was very clear that we have to incentivize it, and we did incentivize. Most of startups' costs, we started investing into startups as well. So we wanted to make sure that there's capital available for them to grow. And I think everything that a startup ecosystem required, we looked at all the components. So some of the key components would be access to market. So we made sure that there are accelerator programs that could give startups access to market and bridge that gap between startups and corporates. We made sure that there is access to capital. So rather than just investing ourselves, we do invest in startups as well, but rather than just investing into startups ourselves, how do we create an ecosystem that has several other VCs as well, so these guys can invest into these startups, because 700 startups would mean nothing if there is no capital next to them as well. And how do we create a talent pool as well within the DIFC, which probably is the best when it comes to finance and professional services? How do we create a tech talent pool within Dubai as well, which these companies that can tap into? And I think a lot of work has gone into them, and policy making has helped a lot. And I think those are some of the key reasons why the region is evolving. If you look at the market's very young. It's very nascent. It has a lot of potential. We've barely scratched the ground. So I think anyone that is either operating in developed markets in London, New York, Singapore, they would see huge potential in the market. And I think, it's just natural for them to expand. And as you expand, as you look into the Middle East and North African markets, you would want a jurisdiction that is as close to these other hubs that you're based in.
You mentioned cryptos in the conversation here. Binance chose to put its headquarters here, and it's now, because of everything that's gone on in the last crypto couple of months, become a very major dominant player, sort of 80 or 90% of the market. How does that work with the DIFC? How does crypto get regulated, and how do you manage it? Is it separate to other fintechs, or is it done in the same way?
So I think crypto is very interesting. I think again, I've been in the space since 2017. We've been speaking to regulators all over the world, and I've been speaking to all the fintech, all the largest crypto exchanges as well. Now, DIFC has its own independent regulator called the Dubai Financial Services Authority, the independent regulator. We have been working for the last few years on our regulations, and luckily today we have regulations on digital assets that are regulated, published at the end of 2021. But last year we actually came up with our regulations on exchanges as well, on cryptos, where we have the capability or have the regulations to regulate crypto exchanges, crypto for as a means of payments as well. But I think, yeah, some could say that, well, I mean, things could have been done somewhat faster. But I mean, at the same time, people need to keep in mind, I mean, DIFC has a lot of credibility. We serve the world's the largest names in the world, from Goldman to JP to Barclays. We wanted to make sure that when we do something, it's right. And there's probably more to lose than gain in the crypto space. So our regulator is very mindful of that. They want to make sure that, yes, we do this because this might be the future of finance, but at the same time, we do not cannibalize what we've built over the last 18 years.
And do you work with other regulators in the world? Like, have you worked with the EU on the MiCA regulation, or have you used any of that for your crypto regulation, or have they used some of your knowledge on the cryptos to help frame MiCA?
So I think our work with global regulators is constant, and we I mean, if you look at the DFC's model, it's very much close to the UK FCA model. We work very closely with them and the regulators in Australia and Singapore as well, with MAS. So I think most closely, I think we work with some of the major regulators, but I think there are bilateral agreements between most of regulators all over the world. But I think specifically on fintech, we work very closely with, I would say, MAS and FCA, and of course we do work with the GFIN as well very closely. Our regulator is part of the working group, and I think we are mindful of regulatory developments all over the world to make sure that we're at par, and also. And also, how can we address the market much more prudent?
Thank you. I'm interested to learn a bit more about FinTech Hive, because that's one of the areas that you're in charge of. If I was a startup now, a startup FinTech, what would I actually do? How would the actual process I would go through working with you to get set up with physical space? What do I need to do?
So I think to be part of the ecosystem, I mean, there are many ways. One is if you want to apply for our accelerator programs, the accelerator programs are open for companies to apply for. And we're actually increasing the number of our accelerator programs. We should soon be announcing a new accelerator program as well. But I think if you go onto our website, you can apply for our accelerator programs. So that's one means of being part of the ecosystem. If you actually want to set up your entity at the DIFC, then that could be another way of being at the DIFC. If you want to apply for funding, then you can apply for funding as well. So I think each one of these initiatives that we have, you could be a part of them through its own channel. And again, we've made it. I think that usually when we meet someone, we try to identify what's the need. I think if somebody just wants to explore and gauge the market, then probably the accelerator program is the best thing to apply for. But if somebody knows what they want and they want to set up in the DIFC or Dubai, then we take them through the licensing requirements. And if someone's looking for funding, then we ask them to apply for the fund. Yeah.
And does that apply to technology companies who are not licensed, as well as companies that require a license?
Yeah, to everyone. I think if anyone who's in this in the fintech space, because you could be requiring financial services license or just a legal entity to be doing business. And yeah, I think either you provide tech for fin or fintech, you follow the same procedure. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. So so the initial thing they would do is they look at the website, and then would they make an appointment to have a meeting with you, and then they have end up with a relationship with somebody to talk to and explore?
Yeah, so I think if anyone's interested, my team is with me. They will connect with them and they will take it forward. I think anyone that does a query, they will pick it up straight away, schedule a call, try and understand your need in particular. And as I mentioned, whatever is of interest to you, be it you want to set up, you want to be part of the accelerator program, you want to apply for funding. Soon we've actually announced the Venture Studio Launchpad as well. You want to be involved in the Venture Studio Launchpad, you could apply for that as well. We do have events as well. You want to apply for events, you just make a query and then the right team picks it up and connects with you.
Okay, thank you. So it's good to hear that it's a human approach rather than just a website, fill in a form and hope something happens.
Yeah, the team is right here. So if anyone's interested, they're right over here. Yeah,
that's great to hear. And what are the requirements for foreign citizens? So if I say I live in the UK, say I wanted to open an office in DIFC, how does one do that? Do I have to have some form of ID card or something? What do I do?
So I think you go through a process, and we've made it quite easy for tech companies, innovation companies, as I mentioned. If you are interested, although if you're not a resident, we can start with the process. We can, as long as you have a business plan, you know what you want to do, we can get you up and running and get you started as lean as possible, if I may say, to keep costs as low as possible for you. All the different options are available. And I think once you're set up, then you can apply for your ID, your residency, and the golden visa as well, and then open up your bank accounts and be operational. So I think at start, Tim, I think, Tom, if anyone that's interested, I think we'll handle it. Yeah.
I think it's very interesting because if you look at this show, the people that are attending, there are people from all over the world.
Yep.
And there are people like us who don't have a physical presence in Dubai who are interested in it. And there are quite a lot of companies like that. And then there are others who are looking at new startups. Because this sort of rather weird time in the world is when innovation actually starts happening. People are having ideas now, okay, in a year or two, when things have settled down, we want to be operating, so we need to start planning now, and people are doing this, so this is the right time, I think, for people to start getting involved. If we sort of look forward now, what are the next things that you see happening in FinTech in 2023 as far as DIFC and the Hive are concerned?
So I think the next few things that we feel are happening and are big. One is metaverse, of course. I think, yes, it's a trendy topic. There might be a little bit of hype around it, but it does have its merits. So we're also looking at it very closely in terms of what could be done in that space. I think a lot of our corporate partners are interested in understanding what this technology could do and how could they benefit from it. So that's something that I think would be interesting. I think the next big thing would be venture building as well, because I think the whole venture building industry has evolved globally in the last couple of years. I think the total number of venture studios has increased from 200 plus to about 800 in the last 24 months. In our part of the world, we hardly have any studios. We have about 24, 25 studios. We believe that will increase significantly, and hence we've betted against it. We want to make sure, we want to position Dubai as a hub for venture building. And again, it actually benefits our bottom line. Our bottom line, as I mentioned, is job creation. And if you look at the ventures that come out of venture studios, they have a much higher success ratio as opposed to someone just launching a venture. In terms of access to market, access to capital, and scale. I think these guys scale much quickly. We believe this sector will grow a lot. And also, I think one of the things that we're doing, we're also, I think in Dubai, we're beyond being the regional hub. And now we're pushing on making Dubai more of a global hub. And I think a lot of our clients are envisioning Dubai as somewhat a global hub where they could set up shop over here and try and cover at least half of the world. Yeah.
Well, I've certainly found since I've been here, it's been a very welcoming place. And as a foreigner here, I feel very comfortable. It's a very clean, a very safe environment, and it's somewhere where you could start quite comfortably and just sort of feel at home. It's a very diverse community. Everybody's here, and I think it seems like a really great place. Are there any sort of challenges that you faced as you've been creating this with the DIFC and Hive that you think are important for people to learn from?
Yeah, I think when we started, regulation was a challenge, and access to capital used to be a challenge. Touch wood, access to capital is not a challenge anymore, although the markets have dried up right now. But still, I think if you're good enough, there is capital that you can tap into. Access to regulate. There's been a lot of development when it comes to regulations. Still, we can do more. I wouldn't say it's the best yet. But I think the biggest challenge that poses us today is talent. I think there's a global war on talent, and that's the challenge that everyone identifies as the top challenge. Most of the founders that I spend my time with, unfortunately, talent is not something that we could address overnight. I mean, it takes time to build talent, and again, I usually say we don't have the Harvards and the Berkeleys right next door who are producing. A lot of engineers. So we are somewhat dependent on importing talent, and luckily we've got we are quite attractive as a jurisdiction when it comes to importing talent. But again, I think the demand for talent is so big that the supply is still there's a gap between demand and supply.
Yeah, I think talent's a global problem. So thank you so much. I think the underlying message is that the DIFC is very much open for business and is very welcoming to everybody. So I encourage you, if you're thinking of joining, have a chat with these very friendly people here. Have a look at the website. And thank you so much for chatting with me. And it's been really interesting and great getting to know you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you.